Hey, you know how the liberal media say that non-citizen voting is a non-issue? How it doesn't happen, and how it certainly doesn't happen in places that decide elections? Well, the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project just released undercover footage of lots of non-citizens in Arizona talking about how they're registered to vote and planning to vote for Kamala.
Hola, señora, ¿cómo está?
Hey, ma'am, how are you?
We're
an organization. Right now we're helping the Hispanic community here in the Phoenix area by giving information to people who might want to register to vote in the upcoming elections. Out of curiosity, are you registered to vote? Yes, we're already registered. Okay. You register here at work? Are you a citizen? No. Okay. Have you been registered yet? There's an application. It's in the place of assistance where they help us Hispanics when we come here. I marked yes, so I could vote. But mark yes. Yes, I marked yes, like I told you. Question came up asking if I wanted to vote. I said yes. Are you a citizen? No, I'm waiting for my residency right now. You're waiting for residency? Yes, okay. And you plan to vote this year? Yes. Last question is, who do you prefer right now? Trump or Kamala? Kamala. Kamala? Where were you born? In Cuba. In Cuba? Yes. That's too bad. That really is a shame. Because I thought the Cubans voted Republican. But it's a bigger shame that non-citizens are voting in general. In a swing state, in this election, this is really valuable footage from the Heritage Foundation because it's coming out of Arizona, a swing state that could help to decide this election, a state that was decided in 2020 by just over 10,000 votes. This is perhaps the clearest evidence yet that the establishment media are lying when they say that non-citizens don't vote and that even when they do, their votes don't matter. This is incredible evidence, which is probably why the liberal media have been so dead set on defaming the Heritage Foundation, its president, Kevin Roberts, and Project 2025 all year long. The libs want to destroy anything that poses an actual threat to their power. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Christmas came early for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Joe Biden just gave him a nice little Christmas present, little September present. And I think it might tell you something about how Democrats are looking at the 2024 election. We'll get to that in one moment. First, though, speaking of filthy lucre, when you want to figure out where to put your material resources, you ought to check out Birch Gold. Text Knowles to 989898. Let's talk about something that is probably keeping you up at night, your hard-earned money. With Kamala Harris proposing massive tax hikes, you might be thinking it's time to make more of your savings tax-sheltered and inflation-sheltered. This is where I trust Birch Gold Group to help you. They will assist you in converting your retirement account into physical gold. And get this, you don't pay 1 penny out of pocket for the conversion. Here's what you need to do. Text the word Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, to 989898 and get a free info kit on gold. That is K-N-O-W-L-E-S to 989898. Wait, there's more. This is the final month for you to take home your very own limited edition, highly coveted, one-of-a-kind, 24-karat, gold-plated truth bomb on qualifying purchases. You heard that right, baby. A qualifying truth bomb. Right now, text Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, to 989898. to claim your eligibility before September 30th. And in time of high taxes and high inflation, protect your savings with gold from Birch Gold. Text Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, to 989898 for your free info kit today. Now, speaking of morally suspect election strategies, the Biden-Harris Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, has just gone viral for saying this about Donald Trump on MSNBC after 2 failed assassination attempts on the life of the Republican nominee.
He says is the opposite. It's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
let's extinguish him for good. That's what Gina Raimondo said about Donald Trump, the current Republican nominee for president, the former U.S. president, a man who was nearly killed by assassins twice in the last 100 days, less than 100 days. I'm no stranger to scrutiny over language. I'm no stranger to accusations of inciting political violence. You might recall a couple years ago I was at CPAC and I said that for the good of society and especially for the good of the poor people who've fallen prey to this confusion, must be from public life entirely, the whole ideology at every level. And I was accused by the liberal media of inciting genocide for using the word eradicate. Eradicate is a different word from exterminate or extinguish or destroy or kill. Eradicate means to pull up by the roots, radix. And they accused me of calling for genocide against people because I said it must be is an ideology for the people too thick to understand what that word means. I even clarified. I said the whole ideology for the good of the people. So obviously I don't want to kill the people. I want to help the people. And ideologies are different from people. So I was pretty clear in my language. And the left spent weeks and weeks defaming me and accusing me of inciting genocide. What did this woman say? This woman is the Commerce Secretary for the Democrat administration. And she said we need to extinguish him, Donald Trump, for good. She's obviously not talking about an ideology. She's talking about a specific person. She's not using language that refers to pulling something up by the root, eradicate. She's saying extinguish. We got to snuff this person out. Unless there be any confusion, she says for good, permanently, dead, gone forever. Talking about a man who nearly had his head blown off in Pennsylvania over the summer, and then once again was almost shot on his golf course. Probably, if you are just listening to the New York Times or the NPR or CNN, probably you haven't heard anything about that. Her comments barely made waves in the establishment media. She's gone viral only among conservative media. For using language that is as direct a threat as I could possibly imagine. Doesn't matter. They've been clear about this from the beginning. The libs have said Trump poses an existential threat to the country. Trump, he's a Nazi. Trump, we need to extinguish this guy for good. Maxine Waters said you got to push back on Republicans where you see them in public. Tell them they're not welcome here. Hillary Clinton said don't be civil to Republicans. This is Exhibit Z. This is evidence number 2,752 that political violence in America today is exclusively a left-wing phenomenon. Now, speaking of corrupt Democrats, the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, has been indicted. The feds have closed in on Eric Adams. He is the first mayor in New York's history, I believe, to be indicted. There's a 57-page indictment against this guy. What did they accuse him of? Relating to his 2021 campaign, they say that he got some dodgy contributions, quote, including from wealthy foreign business people and at least one Turkish government official seeking to gain influence over him. They're accusing him of bribery, fraud, and soliciting illegal foreign campaign contributions. They accuse him of defrauding the public matching funds program by submitting inflated donation figures because it was boosted by money that he wasn't supposed to receive. And so then he received more matching funds from, this liberal policy of public funding of political campaigns. They have even gone so far as to accuse him of corruption for accepting an upgrade on a flight on Turkish Airlines. Now, obviously, the libs are a little selective in their objection to foreign interference in our elections. They don't like it when allegedly some Turks gave some money to Eric Adams. They do like it when hundreds of thousands or millions of illegal foreign nationals come into the country and are then illegally registered to vote. And then once they're illegally registered to vote, plan to vote for Kamala Harris. They love that. They encourage that. They're all about that. But when Eric Adams allegedly takes an upgrade on an airline, a Turkish airline, well, that's no good. I was going to say when Trump colludes with the Russians. He never actually did that, but the Democrats had to cook up a false dossier between the FBI and the Hillary Clinton campaign to accuse Trump falsely of colluding with the Russians. And if he did that in imaginary Democrat land, that would be a problem. Importing hundreds of thousands or millions of foreign nationals, that's totally fine. You know what I think this indictment's really about? There was a clip. This is the second I saw Eric Adams indicted, my mind went back to this clip now from a year or two ago of the New York City mayor describing the illegal migrant crisis.
And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian-speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We got a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted.
This issue is going to destroy New York City. Eric Adams is a lib. Eric Adams is a Dem. Eric Adams has supported a ton of policies that are pretty annoying in New York. However, at a certain point, he said, look, this mass migration stuff, this is bad. Eric Adams, who was a cop, while the Democrats were saying we need to abolish the police, we got to destroy the police, we got to open up the jails, Eric Adams was saying, hey, we should get a little tougher on crime. He is a relatively moderate Democrat mayor, won't go along with the Dems' most extreme plans. He winds up indicted. Now, this is not to say that Eric Adams is innocent. I would not be surprised if he committed every single thing that they accuse him of in this indictment. The question is not, is Eric Adams innocent or guilty? The question is, why are they prosecuting him? Hillary Clinton took a lot of money from a lot of foreign people through her fake charity. It was all extremely dodgy. It was obviously influence peddling. The Biden family collected a lot of money from a lot of foreign people. In Ukraine, they tried to shake down China. They brought in a ton of money. It came through Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, in his texts and emails, talks about giving 10% or even up to 50% to the big guy. It was an influence operation. He brought his business partner to a lunch with the leader of China and with the then sitting vice president of the United States, now president of the United States. They talked about this business arrangement. It was corruption through and through, so obviously. You don't see Joe Biden getting charged, and when Hunter Biden gets charged, it's for low-level crimes to give him a slap on the wrist. So why is Eric Adams having the book thrown at him for goodness sakes, for taking an upgrade on a Turkish airline? He went from Coach to Comfort Plus or something. But what's that mean? You get a free drink? I don't know. Even if he got pushed all the way to business class, that's why you indict the sitting mayor. He's probably guilty as sin. He's a New York politician. That's true of most of them. The question is, in a country where the political class has become this corrupt, why do certain people get prosecuted and other people are not prosecuted? That has really nothing to do with crimes. That has to do with a political agenda. That has to do with which side people are on. And Eric Adams, as it stands right now, even though he's a Democrat, even though he's pretty liberal, he's not all the way on the team. So he's going down. Now, when you want to be a responsible man, you ought to check out Responsible Man. Go to responsibleman.com, use code Knowles. Gentlemen, we need to talk about something that the libs don't want you to have, and that is robust, unapologetic health. While the libs are busy pushing their soy-infused agenda, I've discovered a way to fortify ourselves against the tide of cultural decay. And that is Responsible Man Vitamins. Responsible Man created the Emerson multivitamin for men who take their duties seriously. It's packed with 33 key ingredients that support your immune system, sharpen your mind, and keep your heart and muscles strong. It's everything a conservative man needs to stand firm in these trying times. Responsible Man is a DailyWire Ventures company, so you know these vitamins are made right here in America. No cheap Chinese knockoffs, no lead in your pills, no outsourcing to countries that resent your beliefs. Just good old American quality, because a strong America needs strong men. Take advantage of Responsible Man's fall sale going on right now. Go to responsibleman.com, use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 30% off, plus an additional $9 off your first order. But hurry, this deal won't last long. That's responsibleman.com, code Knowles for 30% off. Gentlemen, in a world where the libs want to redefine your manhood, taking care of your health is practically a revolutionary act. Stick it to those dirty, rotten libs and take these vitamins. Responsibleman.com. Responsible Man. Be the man America needs. Speaking of bribes, the leader of Ukraine has just shown up to the White House, and Joe Biden, who I guess is still technically the president, announced more money for good old Zelensky.
Well, Mr. President, welcome back to the White House. Welcome back to the Oval Office. Got to see each other yesterday, and you shared a preview of your plan to win this war, and that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. Now, the Ukraine, how is Ukraine going to prevail in this conflict? And I see two key pieces. First, right now we have to strengthen Ukraine's position on the battlefield, and that's why today I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package of security assistance. I've also directed the Pentagon to allocate all the remaining security assistance funding that has been appropriated to Ukraine, period, by the end of my term, which is January 20.
I'm making sure that Zelensky is going to get a ton of money, billions of dollars, and I'm going to make sure that all the money that he could possibly get currently under the law is going to go to him by the end of my term. I think this is great news. Great news. Not because I'm particularly eager to give Ukraine another penny, not because I like Zelensky, who's spent the last 3 weeks campaigning for Democrats around America while visiting our munitions factories and looking a gift horse in the mouth. No, the reason I think this is good news is it signals to me that the White House is concerned about the election. It signals to me that the White House is not convinced that Kamala Harris is going to beat Trump, and Ukraine funding could be in peril. If Trump is reelected, he might try to wind down that war. And so the Biden administration is trying to give out all that money up front and then guarantee that all of the money that is allocated for Ukraine will go to Ukraine before Joe Biden leaves office. To me, it's a sign of concern and it's a sign of weakness. And in as much as it's a sign of the times, I like what it is signaling. Now, speaking of other election issues, turning now to other election issues, Jennifer Lawrence, the Hollywood actress, just gave an interview to People magazine, and she weighed in on what she feels to be the most important issue in this election. And that, of course, is the ability of women to murder their children. Abortion, she says, is literally on the ballot. It's not figuratively on the ballot. It's not allegorically on the ballot. It's not anagogically on the ballot. Jennifer Lawrence says, no, sir, it's literally on the ballot. And she says, I'm voting for Kamala Harris. By the way, it is figuratively on the ballot. It's not literally on the ballot. She says, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because I think she's an amazing candidate, and I know that she will do whatever she can to protect reproductive rights, which is a euphemism for killing kids, which is the opposite of both reproduction and right. That's the most important thing, is to not let somebody into the White House who's going to ban abortion. Trump won't ban abortion. Many pro-lifers wish he were campaigning on banning abortion, though as a matter of prudence, probably if one were to campaign on banning abortion, one would not win an election. And in any case, Trump has never indicated that he wishes to ban abortion. But put that aside for a second. Put aside even your strong feelings about abortion and the defense of life in the womb. Let's say that you support abortion in some cases. Let's say that you support abortion in a great number of cases. Let's say you support abortion through the first trimester. Let's say you're an abortion radical and you support abortion through the second trimester when the baby is so clearly a baby, looks like a baby, moves around like a baby. Let's say let's say you're a real stone cold psycho and you support abortion into the third trimester, full term, looks exactly like every other baby that's born kind of abortion. It's the most important issue. Would you agree with Jennifer Lawrence? The ability to kill a baby is the most important. It's more important than national security, than our border, than our economy, than voting rights, than crime and safety on the streets. It's the most important issue. How demonically perverted must your mind and soul have become to believe that the license to murder an innocent little baby, your own innocent little baby, is the most important issue in politics? This is so sick, man. Abortion itself is extremely sick and sign of a perverse mind and soul. But this is a whole other level. It's the most important issue. How do you convince people? How do you persuade them out of this way of thinking? Here, too, we have to go back to good old Uncle Aristotle. The way to convince someone out of this kind of thinking, out of killing my kid is the most important thing we can possibly do in politics, requires more than just making an argument or showing a sonogram or talking about the science or even discussing bioethics and the meaning of life and human nature. You have to attack the taste for abortion. This is totally irrational stuff. This is what Jennifer Lawrence is indicating here is a totally irrational bloodlust for little babies. So what Aristotle points out is in order for education to take hold, it's not enough to just fill people's heads with facts like we think about education today. It's about cultivating tastes and desires for truth, for goodness, and for beauty. That's how you first educate someone, a little kid. You cultivate in them a desire for good things and a desire for the truth and a desire for beautiful things. You cultivate first taste, and then that taste, that desire, will lead them in their pursuit of the truth. What we have here is actually almost a pre-educational problem. People have cultivated really sick and disordered tastes. You've got to change that part first. We are at such a degree of irrational public life that before you can have the rational conversation with Jennifer Lawrence, you got to get her to you got to tone down the bloodlust a little bit. Then you can talk about the reality of what a baby is, what murder is, what right is. Now, we got to restore some balance. That's one of the reasons you got to check out Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Knowles. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies. It's the most convenient way to get whole fruits and vegetables daily. They take fruits and vegetables, they freeze dry them, they turn them into a powder, then they put them into a capsule. Then you take the capsule and you put it into your mouth. Then it goes into your belly, and then you restore balance to the natural parts of your body. Balance of Nature is just one ingredient of a balanced lifestyle, has no intention to replace a healthy diet, exercise, sleep, or any other healthy habits. It is intended to be used in concert with other healthy habits. I love Balance of Nature. I'm a huge fan, especially, I go on the road. Sometimes I get a little Mac attack on the road. I'm not exactly eating the healthiest. Well, Balance of Nature allows you to not have to really worry about that quite so much. Go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Knowles, KNWLES, for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, you get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That is balanceofnature.com. Use promo code KNOWLES. My favorite comment yesterday is from Mr. Langdog, who says, "Look, a UFO. Grab the 240 by 160 digital camera from 1992. That's true. It always seems to be. We have phones in our pockets that you could film a 90-minute feature film on. And yet, for some reason, whenever the UFO flies by, just like whenever Bigfoot walks by, you got to go, You got to get your, your great-great-great-grandfather's camera where like the bulb explodes every time you take the picture and it's printed on sheet metal or something. You got to get the blurriest, most difficult image to see. Kind of weird. Now, speaking of little children, Tim Walz's wife, the would-be future Second Lady of the United States, recently hit the campaign trail, and she was talking about this issue of abortion, this big sign right in front of her, fighting for reproductive freedom. You know, the most important issue, according to these people. But it's what she said was not notable for the arguments she made. It was notable for how she made them. She's talking to her prospective voters like toddlers.
Are you ready? Let's hear it loud and clear like we said. Mr. Trump, Mr. Vance, please mind your own business. Oh, that was excellent.
Oh, good job. Now you all give yourselves a round of applause. You repeat after me. Orange, man, bad. Good job. Who wants a sticker? Me, I have a sticker. Where do I? Mrs. Walz is treating the Democrat voters as if they're toddlers because they behave as if they're toddlers. They argue like toddlers. They throw temper tantrums in the street. Unfortunately, when your 3-year-old throws a temper tantrum, maybe he breaks a picture frame or something. When the Democrats have temper tantrums, they burn down Minneapolis and try to murder the president twice. So the consequences are a little bit more grave, but that's what they do. They have these irrational temper tantrums in the streets. They desire things that are not good for them or for the common good, that are actually quite harmful. Here, she's speaking specifically about killing little kids. And so she's not speaking down to them. I think Mrs. Walz was criticized for condescending to the Harris-Walz voters. She's not condescending. She's not speaking down to them. She's not diminishing them. They are diminished. Their very presence at a rally to demand the killing of little babies to support her husband and Kamala Harris for president is evidence that they have been diminished. They are being spoken to at exactly the appropriate level, not a fine recommendation of the state of our polity. You hear the Democrats constantly talking about how Republicans are a threat to democracy. No, I don't know. Democrat politicians allowing voters to degrade themselves and infantilize themselves in a country where we are, at least in principle, supposed to govern ourselves. That seems to me the greater threat to democracy. When the people are not capable of governing themselves, when they violate the warning that John Adams gave us, that the country is built for a moral and religious people and the Constitution's wholly inadequate to the government of any other, that seems to me the greater threat to democracy. Far greater threat than a horn hat guy getting a police-guided private tour on January 6th, the worst day in human history. Speaking of childish political rhetoric, MSNBC's Nicholle Wallace, one of the more grating hosts on an already far-left news channel, recently interviewed Charlie Sykes, who is a former Republican. Now he just spends his time whining about how terrible Republicans are and defending Democrats at one of those outlets. It's either I think it's the Bulwark. He's at one of them where it was the Republicans who no longer have any influence decided to switch teams, take their ball and go home. And he's at one of those outlets. I think it's the Bulwark. They were going back and forth over what a second Trump term would look like. It turns out, according to these very, very serious and sober-minded political analysts, that what Trump wants is another Holocaust.
By the way, this is the issue of mass deportation. He keeps talking about it, and there are polls suggest a lot of Americans want to do that. But I'm not sure that we've really come to grips what it means to take millions of people, put them, in trains, on buses, arrest them, round them up, use the military, use police, separate parents from children. It would be one of the greatest humanitarian disasters of our time.
Trump talked about serial numbers. That's not just our heinous history of desegregating schools in the South. That's the history of the Holocaust. I mean, there were serial numbers in the Japanese internment camps. But this talk of serial numbers has its own heinous echo to history, Tim.
Yeah, it's basically Trump is doing the Holocaust. Is that correct? Can we turn now to the very serious political analyst? What do you think about the Holocaust that Hitler, Trump, Adolf, Donald wants to do? Can you, because we're serious people here. So is he a Holocauster? He wants to Holocaust? Yes, he does, Nicholle. He is a Holocauster and very much wants to Holocaust. Because why exactly? Because Trump has said we ought to deport criminals who came into the country illegally. Trump thinks we ought to enforce the most basic provisions of our immigration law, which is in itself pretty much the most basic provision of a country because a country is defined by its border. So Trump, the executive, the would-be executive of the government, whose job it is to enforce the law, wants to enforce, in some way, the most basic element of the law. Well, he's basically doing another Holocaust, wouldn't you say? Oh, absolutely. She goes on.
We're past the point of, clapping and giving the paper plate award to the Republicans like Paul Ryan, who could say, nope, not going to do it. Not going to vote for Donald Trump. Where is the alarm? Where is the Republican effort to stop this dehumanization of asylum seekers, migrants, and legal immigrants? Where is the effort to say, this is not who we are, this is hurting us, this is hurting our communities? Where is the effort to say, enough is enough? I believe in conservative bag of tricks, but this isn't conservative, it's un-American.
When's someone going to say enough is enough? Huh? I mean, I guess two people already said enough is enough. One of them in Pennsylvania and another one on Trump's golf course. They said enough is enough, and the first guy in Pennsylvania, he almost blew the back of Trump's skull off, but he missed because of this hair's breadth turn at the end. And then the other one, he got caught, unfortunately, before Trump made it to the hole, so he wasn't able to blow Trump's head off. But when is someone going to succeed at killing super-duper Hitler 2.0 who wants to do another Holocaust? Charlie and Tim, can you explain it to me? Because our democracy's at stake. That's the upshot of all of this rhetoric. Two assassins already tried to say enough is enough, but that's not enough for Democrats because they didn't succeed. Even the language that's being used here. Why the constant references to the Holocaust? There's a town in Israel named after Donald Trump, okay? If Donald Trump were a Nazi, he's the worst Nazi ever there was. If he were an anti-Semite, he's the least successful anti-Semite ever there was. Why this constant reference to the Holocaust? In part, it is this scaremongering over genocide. The Holocaust refers to the genocide of Jews in Nazi Germany. But the term Holocaust is a religious term. The term, outside of its 20th century context, is a term of religion. It refers to a burnt offering at an altar. The reason that the libs are invoking the Holocaust so much is the same reason that they compare Trump to Hitler. They compare Trump to Hitler not just to say Trump is a very bad man, but because in the modern language, Hitler isn't even Hitler. The historical Hitler, very, very evil man, did lots of very, very evil things. But in the modern mythos, the language that we use, Hitler is just a substitute word for the devil. We don't talk about the devil anymore because we don't believe in traditional religion. But we talk about Hitler. And Hitler is understood to be the incarnation of absolute evil, against whom any action would be justified. All of these segments boil down to about 4 words. Someone please Trump. That's what it comes down to. When is someone going to say enough is enough? He's going to do a Holocaust. He's Hitler. Enough is enough. Someone has to stop him. We have to stop him. Why won't someone stop him? Then the DOJ releases a bounty. Hey, whoever Trump can get $150,000. Why are we releasing this memo? I don't know. It takes a year to release the memo from the shooter who shot up a Christian school in Nashville, but we're going to get this one out. The guy who almost murdered Trump, we're going to get this one out in 8 days. 150 G's to whoever finishes the job. That's what it's all about. They're going to keep, because they're getting real desperate. Because if you look at the poll, they're going to try to pack Arizona with illegal voters, as you heard in that video from the Heritage Foundation. They're going to they already tried to imprison him. They already tried to kick him off the ballot. But they are not feeling as though in a fair and square election, they would beat Donald Trump. Of course not. Since the Democrats have been in charge, everything has gone to hell in a handbasket. You know, the DailyWire's first ever theatrical release, Am I Racist?, remains a top 10 movie in the country, is verified hot and saucy and sexy on Rotten Tomatoes with a 98% audience score. The only thing better than seeing it in theaters is having a theater all to yourself. Well, now's your chance with the Am I Racist Theater Takeover Sweepstakes. One lucky winner will claim an entire theater for a private showing with 50 of their closest friends. We will provide the snacks and drinks. You just bring your crew and get ready for a hilarious night out. Plus, you'll roll up to your screening in style on a brand new Razor scooter. Wait, really? That's because it's the first time I'm hearing of this. That's very silly. That is the scooter that Matt Walsh rides in the hit comedy. So get all the details right now at amiRacist.com. Finally, we get to my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. Our mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, KNWLES. Today, switch to a qualifying plan and get 1 year free on DailyWire Plus. Insider, take it away.
Hi, my name is Emily. I wanted to tell you that you are wrong about single women in their 30s. You say women regret believing the feminist lie to wait to start a family and focus on a career. But regret implies they chose to be single throughout their 20s. Many women didn't wait. They dated and wanted a family, but just didn't find the right person. I wanted to be married with my first child at 21. That's what I used to say when I was a teenager. My career goal was to be a stay-at-home mum. I never pursued a career. I taught myself how to cook at 18. I got a Certificate 3 in Children's Services when I worked in childcare, and I also learnt organizational skills for around the home. I just didn't find anyone. I reached 35 with no boyfriend or kids. It's upsetting when you imply women in my position regret it as if it was my choice. You and your wife took 2 years to have a baby. Would she be upset if I asked if she regretted taking so long? Would it not be rude to imply she chose that timing instead of just taking that long? Anyway, dating apps are like brothels with free mail, which is why most women avoid them. Most men don't want to commit and are only after casual fun. What's your suggestion for non-religious women?
Well, there you have it. There's the crux of the matter, because I'm not in any way doubting that your experience is authentic, that you've really experienced that. But what you're describing is a minority experience. You wanted to get married young and you were not able to meet a guy. And so you say, I can't regret it because I didn't choose to put off getting married. Now, I think for many more of the women who are in their 30s or 40s who wanted to get married but haven't gotten married, I think for many more of them, they did go to school, they did get a job, they did pursue a career life, they did do the things that women are now taught to do from grade school. And then they realized that a lot of those things have foreclosed other goods in their lives that were neglected in their education, which is why I think for most women, it is a kind of regret, because they weren't just waiting. They weren't quite so clear-minded as you were as a teenager. But you then also become a victim of a broader culture that discourages marriage and discourages forming a family and tells everyone to put everything off because it takes two to tango, and the men start to act that way too. And as you point out, dating apps are like brothels for male. Absolutely true. So you say, well, what is your advice to women who want to get married young, who don't fall for the feminist stuff, who don't fall for the careerism and the liberalism that's promoted? What's your advice to those women who are not religious? I don't know. I mean, what's your advice to a square circle? I'm sure there are women who desire natural goods like family for purely natural reasons without any sense of the supernatural or faith. But now we're talking about a really small subset of a smaller subset of a small subset. You're talking about a real niche group of people, because if a woman came to me and said, Michael, I want to get married at 20 and have my first kid at 21 and really start a big family, what should I do? I'd say, okay, well, I would recommend you attend Mass regularly, and I would recommend specifically the traditional Latin Mass. And if I were somehow religiously indifferent, which of course I'm not, but if I were religiously indifferent, I'd say there are other places, Orthodox Jews get married young and have a lot of kids. Or, I don't know, Muslims seem to have, a fair number of kids, or Mormons have a lot of kids too. So I would recommend, but basically all those groups would have a strong religious component, because putting off marriage, putting off having kids, not having kids in some cases, living this modern liberal life is inextricably linked to secularism and the decline of religion. And you might be the rare person who is irreligious, but wants all of the traditional goods associated with not just religion, but actually serious practicing Orthodox religion. You might be one of those rare birds, but you're setting yourself up for a very difficult situation, because the guys who you're going to meet who want to get married at 22 and have a ton of kids and have the wife stay at home and bake bread and raise the kids and cultivate a home economy and a whole household, those guys are going to be religious 999 times out of 1,000. So what is my advice? Well, my advice is maybe be a little bit clearer about what it is exactly that you want. If you want those traditional goods, it's going to come with a more traditional way of life that's going to come with religion. If you want to be irreligious, then you're probably not going to get those traditional goods. But just as we're saying with feminism, that women can't really have it all because men can't really have it all, because this is a finite world, and you can have life in great, wonderful abundance. I feel that I have a superabundance of graces and joy in my life. But you can't literally have every single thing, because to choose certain things necessarily means to exclude others, especially those things which contradict it. Okay, next question.
Hi, Michael. I am a 23-year-old American who's about to propose to my girlfriend of 5 years that I met in college. My parents, coincidentally, an Italian-American mother and a Haitian-American, now Haitian-American father, were happily married for 25 years, but recently split up. By the way, don't worry, he got in back when they got in legally. I've been reflecting on the impact that modern liberalism or leftist ideas have had on their marriage and on society's view of marriage as a whole. And as somebody that wants to lead a more traditional life, I was hoping maybe I could ask of advice that you have for me for building a stronger marriage and staying grounded over the years. Thank you very much. I am an Episcopal, by the way, an Episcopalian. I was baptized Roman Catholic, and am very interested to know if there's any room in the Catholic Church for an Episcopal convert. So maybe that's also included in that question.
Great. Okay. Well, all great news. From the perspective of the church, you're Catholic because you're baptized Catholic. So you've gone to, an Episcopal ecclesial community for much of your life. Sometimes we would say that's twice the liturgy, half the guilt. Though now, the Episcopalians have gone a little bit even more lib than they used to be. So, but it's a fairly similar liturgy. So just come back, just go to confession. If you want to go back to being a practicing Catholic, you just go to confession and you go back and you avail yourself of the sacraments, and that'll be all great. Talk to a priest, but that's very, very simple. That issue is very simple. Your first question is a little bit less simple because you're saying, look, I want to have a good traditional life. I want to have a good, permanent, enduring marriage. My parents split up. So what do I do? You're recognizing that divorce is a rupture that echoes throughout a community, and it can echo for generations. It is like splitting the atom. The family is the atomic unit of society. And the effects of rupturing that unit is akin to splitting the atom. I mean, it's just absolutely catastrophic. So you got to be on guard. The kids of divorced parents are much, much more likely to get divorced. So what are you going to do? Well, I guess this ties in with my answer to the first question, which is I don't mean to be pat or simplistic about this, but you are going to have a religious understanding of your marriage. You're going to have not just a natural understanding of marriage. Marriage predates the church. Marriage exists in pagan societies. Marriage is a natural institution. You're going to have a supernatural, a sacramental understanding of marriage, that what God has joined, no man can separate. And you're going to need it more than Joe Blow on the street, because you have this sickness that runs in your family, which is divorce. So you're going to have to be, you didn't choose it, but that's just how it works. You're going to have to be much more vigilant. You are going to have an objectively grounded reason that you can assent with your reason and with your will, and that you can really cling on to in the theological fact of hope for why you and your wife are not going to get divorced. Okay, that's going to be really important for you. And so, I don't know, it sounds like you're inclined toward these eternal questions. So, I'm quite confident that you'll be able to do that. But that's how you do that. You are at greater peril because your parents split than people who come from a home that remains intact. Written question from Carrie. Michael, I have numerous friends voting for Harris, and of them, I always ask, how are you voting for 4 more years of these crushing prices? While I attribute it to the administration, they do not. Can you give me some points to make about how the Biden administration is, in fact, responsible for the hit that all of our wallets are taking at the grocery store, among other places? Well, you have to ask first why they think that Biden is not responsible, why they think Biden and Harris are not responsible for the Biden-Harris administration. And so if one answer, the best answer they could give is, well, because the inflation was baked in from the Trump administration. And so there's a little bit of truth to that. They made the inflation much worse. They passed that Inflation Reduction Act, which was really just a giveaway, a huge spending bill that analysts at the time pointed out would actually make inflation worse. So their policies have deepened inflation. And then the inflation that came from the Biden administration, or rather from the Trump administration, was pushed by Democrats in reaction to COVID, for which the Democrats primarily locked down the country. So even if you want to blame Trump for any of the economic problems, don't forget the economy was doing great for most of the Trump administration, but then there was this intentional downtick in the economy by the end because of COVID, because of the lockdowns, which the Democrats primarily pushed, and because of the spending from COVID, which the Democrats also primarily pushed. So that would be the answer. Now, maybe your friend has a less rational argument as to why we shouldn't blame Biden and Harris, but you got to figure that out. You got to figure out exactly where this irrational behavior of voting for Biden-Harris is coming from, and then you got to address that problem specifically. Today is Fake Headline Friday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.
The stage is set. The stakes are sky high. Senator Vance, Governor Walz, face off. But who will land the knockout punch? Don't watch the debate alone. Experience it with the most trusted names in conservative media. DailyWire Backstage brings you unfiltered commentary, biting wit, and expert analysis you won't get anywhere else. Join Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Andrew Clavin, and Jeremy Boring for a debate night you'll never forget. DailyWire Backstage, Tuesday, October 1st, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, only on DailyWire Plus.